Let's look at how to connect the Multiplus II to the Lynx Distributor. But before you do that, you need to know how the Lynx system is connected to the batteries. I've already set up my batteries in parallel. You might be able to see that little multimeter here. What we're going to prove to start is that we have good voltage, and I'm showing 13.34 right now. And if I come, this switch is off. If I come to here, should be 0. And there's nothing. When I turn this switch on, system starts coming up. I check voltage here, and 13.33. We'll turn that off. This is a 300 amp on-off switch. Behind here, you can't see it, is an ANL 400. And at the same time, my negative wire and positive wire with the ANL 400 fuse in there, they're both the same length to the battery system. Now that's the Cerbo GX warning because I specifically have a Lynx Distributor without a fuse in it, so I'm going to show you guys that later. I just have to access this interface to turn it off. Acknowledge the warning effectively. And there we go. We'll get into that in a bit. To show you the system that's currently there, this is what it looks like on the Victron Connect app. You can see both battery 1, battery 2. You can also see the Lynx Smart BMS. This is the Cerbo. The Lynx distributors actually show up within the Smart BMS, so I can show you that. You'll also see the warning about the fuse here. There it is. It's not actually blown, it's empty. Let me show you that. Empty here, and therefore the warning. So we'll take that cover off. We'll take this cover off. We'll start getting into this in just a moment. Let me clear this notification and move over to the distributors. You can see the A distributor, B distributor, and in the settings, there they are. I've got each one labeled number A, or letter A, the first one. That's going to be the Multiplus that we're connecting today. Next is going to be my Blue Sea 12 volt distribution panel. The next one is for the RTX 2000 air conditioner. That's an 80 amp fuse there. Fuse 4 is the one that's out. Okay. It looks like I can turn that off. That's a new feature just within the last couple of weeks, I think, with the Victron Connect app. We used to not have that on-off feature, so I bet that I can turn that off. I was going to put just a spare fuse in here, and we'll do that anyway so you can see what it looks like to put a fuse in here. And on B, continuing on, I'm going to have 2 Orion DC to DC 30 amp from my Ford customer connection point. So each of those get a 60 amp and 2 solar controllers, one for the pair of 100 watt panels on my roof and one for the pair of 200 watt panels on my roof. So it's really nice. This app, you can see everything. Yeah, looks good. Take a quick look at the batteries. We'll go into their details. There's a battery firmware update. So when you see these, I like to do them. These were all recent firmware updates from Victron, so obviously they've had a little tick number from 1.27 to 1.28, so we'll catch that real quick. Good, and we'll go ahead and do that to battery 2. I will say that's the nice thing about this Victron system. I've got this Bluetooth connectivity to the Victron Connect app, so I'm going to consider this a smart build to my electric system in the van. I'm pretty happy with all the tabletop testing. This is just the first of the videos of my particular setup. I know that while we're waiting on this, people are going to talk about why not a Class T fuse? Well, Class T fuses are not even in the Victron Connect wiring diagram, at least as of today. So I've also had my distributor take a look at my wiring diagram as well. They gave a thumbs up. So again, this is just mine. I'm showing you mine. Make sure you get yours checked out by your Victron distributor, electrical engineer, etc. Okay, we can continue here. It's nice, this latest Victron update shows us all this information right here without having to actually connect to the battery. I want to show you what that looks like anyways. These states of last full charge and cell status, they're unknown because it's been more than 10 and possibly even more than 20 days since I actually connected this system. I wanted it to get to this state before creating this video, so that when I do plug in the Multiplus and connect it to shore power, you'll see all the charging going on, and effectively once it hits 100% state of charge, the last full charge will be known and the cell status will be known as it balances its cells. Okay, and battery 2 should look pretty much the same. They've been in good shape through my testing, so good. And you can also see that it's about 86 degrees in my garage. They've got a temperature sensor inside of them. Okay, quick look here at the Cerbo just so you can see what I did a few minutes ago. I have this remote console. It doesn't fit very well on the iPhone 12 Pro that I have, but effectively, if you get the Cerbo Touch, it's a touch HDMI screen, you get the full view of this without obstruction. So let's see here, back to this app, and we'll turn that off for now, get to the practical stuff. Okay. Because I'm going to put a fuse into this, I'm going to turn the system off. And I have several sizes needed for this. Let's see, 17 millimeter for these, and they are 4/3/8 inch lugs. 4/5/16, everything within the Lynx and Victron system. A lot of it seems to be 5/16 for your main studs, which you can do with 13 millimeter. And this one, on the nuts underneath this, they're 14 for whatever reason. But that is also 4/3/8. These cables here, let's take a closer look at those. These cables here, they are for connecting the batteries to the Lynx Smart 500. It does have a shunt built in, by the way, for those of you wondering. And it connects to the VE CAN with terminators on each end to the Cerbo GX, and that's just a straight through Cat 5 cable. The Cerbo gets its positive and negative. I just tied it into the end of the Lynx bus bar over here. Again, all the fuses, and we're going to change this one out back on the main view. Back to my 13 millimeter. Make sure I'm in off. And there we go. Here I have a couple spare fuses. We'll take a little 40. These are the mega fuse. So put that on. I'm going to do the washer, lock washer, nut. And washer, lock washer, and nut. I do believe there is a published torque spec for these. I do not have a torque wrench, so if you do, get one, or use it, I should say. And now, if I turn on this system, and if we go back into the app, as the components come up here, you'll see have green light here, no error. As the Cerbo comes up, we should not get any warnings. And here we go in the Smart BMS under the distributor. A and B connected. There's all the fuses, even fuse 4, the spare one that we just put in. It's okay, so no warnings there anymore. And I'm going to turn this back off now so that we can get to the meat of this thing, which is connecting the Multiplus II to this system. Again, this is all off. The Multiplus here, let's see. Need a screwdriver to undo its cover. Now we've got this other view up for you. Finish unscrewing these 2 bolts. Screws. They're just the cover screws here. As you can see, I've already connected the wires to the Multiplus and crimped them and heat shrinked them. Well, we covered that in the last video, so we're not going to cover that again. Pull this off. There we go. Again, 4/5 5/16, negative, positive. This is the power into this unit. We have ground. This that you see here, that's the AC in number 1. This Multiplus II, this new model, has a push-in style. This is a 3/8 gauge. I'm only doing 30 amp shore power with a smart plug device. And I did originally have 10.3 on here instead of this 8.3. But you have to really push in here quite far with a very tiny, like, jeweler's screwdriver or whatever to trigger the thing, then push your wires in, pull your screwdriver back out. I really kind of don't like it. I wish Victron had stayed with the screw terminals in here. I'm not exactly sure what their engineering decision was there. So I'm not a huge fan of these push-in terminals. I already had a 10.3 ferrule stuck inside of one of these. So that fortunately I was able to get out. Again, I'm not sure I like it, but it is what it is. So, and here for now, I have a 6 gauge wire for the grounding of this chassis. And because this is a DC system, I can connect that to the negative bar on my Lynx distributor system. And this thing has its own physical on-off button. One of them is for charging only the 2 lines. And one of them, the 1 line on, is all the way on. And you can control the on-off through the Cerbo GX touch control. Okay, now that you've seen that, let's get it wired up into the Lynx distributor. Again, make sure your system is off, and we will start with the negative wire here. You can lift these up. They kind of pull right off. There we go. And again, you need your 13 millimeter and undo this nut here. Notice that they're not on there all that tight. I'm pretty sure that torque spec is similar, but please do follow that. I can flip this up for convenience. It doesn't really matter. Go. This is a 4/0, 5/16 washer, lock washer nut. And you can pop your little cover back on. Next, we have to remove this connection. The fuses are underneath. So once that's off, put our positive connection in. Washer, lock washer nut. You should have a close-up now of what this looks like. Again, snug, follow the torque specs. Now we have the negative, the positive into the negative and positive bus bars. And now we want to put the ground also to the negative bar. Still recording? Good. Come on, washers. Oh, great. That's not cool. I have to dig those out now. That's the first time that's happened to me. Hang tight. Come on. Oh, that's a little bonus to the video you didn't expect. There we go. It can happen. All right. We'll put this, let's cycle this under everything here. I think it'll just go in a little bit better. Can't tie yourself in a knot. Put in your lug, washer, lock washer, nut. And when that's done, you can put these back on. Oh, a quick note. The Lynx distributors, the way they communicate to the Smart BMS and the way that they show up in the app the way they did, is this is an RJ10 cable here between the Smart BMS and the Lynx, and then Lynx to Lynx. Good. So let's double verify before we turn the system on. We have the negative to the negative, the positive to the positive. The chassis ground is in place. I feel good. And the system is off. The physical switch is off on the Multiplus. I'm going to turn this thing on now. as the system boots up. Everything looks good. Get our device. And everything's coming up in the app. Cerbo should be here in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and turn on to the 1 bar, so all the way on the Multiplus. If you heard the clicks there, it's getting power. It's showing inverter on at the moment. Cerbo is coming online. And let's see where I'll be able to fit this on the screen for you. We go to the remote console. Do you know why it's not showing up in here? This runs off the VE bus. So another Cat5 cable. And there's a VE bus section on the Cerbo. Plug that in and it should start communicating. There's the Multiplus. You can see that it is set for an input current limit 30. Like I said, I'm doing my shore power for 30 amp limit. I'm not worried about the 50 amp. I don't have a Class A bus or a mega yacht, anything like that. You can see now the DC voltage that it's taking in for powering itself up, running itself. And now, let's see what this thing does when I plug it into shore power. I think you can see behind me my shore power connection. Of course, I wrapped this thing around my tripod pole and set up here. Here we go. Again, this is the Smart Plug 30 amp. I like these. They are, they've got a click lock system. Lift it up. You've got your click lock, the other end of the connection. You can close this down to also lock that in place. And now I'll pretend like I'm plugging into a KOA or other campground or 30 amp. We are plugged in. It'll take it a moment to know that it's got charge coming in. You can hear it click there. If we go back to the main window, you can see now it's sending charge into the batteries. Right, so excellent. And we can take a look at what it's doing. You can see it's getting 122 volts, 16 amps, almost 2,000 watts that it's sucking in, because it knows, it's in bulk by the way, so it knows these batteries haven't had a charge sent to them in a while. I haven't used them all that much, so it won't be in bulk for long, but it's going to be there for a little bit. Yeah, that's it. Let's take a look at this from the Victron app's perspective. Good. We'll choose battery 1 here for fun. Good. You can see the voltages are already going up. Look at the Smart BMS. Hopefully that hum's not too loud. We can see now that even at the bottom, time remaining is infinite, because presuming that the shore power never cuts off, technically I have infinite power if I'm connected to the grid, I suppose. But you can see that we have voltage and power going into these. Once it finishes this bulk phase, it's going to go into absorption, and eventually the system will just settle out. These cells will balance, and all of these statistics here, their seat's already balancing. All these statistics here will finish their data set. The last full charge will show up. I've already switched to absorption mode, so that's, there we go, charged. That's how little that I've used these batteries in the last 10 to 30 days, give or take, since I've been waiting to get to that state to record this video for you. And, well, that's it. You're set. You now know how to connect a Multiplus to the Lynx Distributor, and the components of the Lynx Distributor being connected to this battery set in parallel. Hey guys, quick note. I did go back, given this new firmware here, and I wanted to test this for you. You can hear the Cerbos screaming and complaining. You can see on the app here that the fuse thinks that it's blown. But there are these sliders now in settings. So let's take a look at that. If I turn that off, fuse not in use. No more alarm. I love it. This feature is brand new to this version of Victron Connect, so thank you, Victron Energy, for adding that. I know a lot of people were just taking advantage of the spots and putting spare fuses there. Great place to carry spare fuses, I suppose, but I think this is even better. So good job, Victron. Happy to have that new feature. See ya.